So the NEVI plan is the National Electric Vehicle Formula Program that has allotted $38 million to the state of Nevada. Overall, it is a $5 billion EV charging funding opportunity for the nation. It focuses on creating a national network of charging infrastructure that is based off of the U.S. highways and interstates. And every year, we at NDOT are required to work with the Department of Energy and the Joint Office to submit our plan. I'm so sorry. Submit our plan and get it approved. Sorry, there was some feedback going on. The requirements for a NEVI charging infrastructure is 1 mile from the U.S. highway or interstate, 50 miles in between stations. They all must be DC fast chargers, and there must be 4 ports and a total of 600 kilowatts divided evenly between the 4 ports at each charging location. On the next slide, we'll discuss the review of year 1 and 2. Both year 1 and 2 the plans have been approved by the FHWA. The first year at Nevada, we focused on the interstates. That would include the I-80, I-15, I-11, I-215, and I-515. On the second year, we threw in the U.S. highways. So our focus was US 50, US 95, US 93, and parts of US 6. We also had many stakeholder engagement meetings that we discussed how we could cooperate with NV Energy's ERTEP program. We're working together with them so that we are not duplicating efforts, and we are able to extend our funds by helping them with some projects and them helping us with projects. We're working with the Governor's Office of Energy to determine the infrastructure that they'll be putting in that is outside of NEVI funds. We are working with Washoe, Clark County, and the city of Las Vegas to determine the needs and where we can put in NEVI required infrastructure in their areas. And we have also been working with many other departments within the state. I wanted to share with you the way that we determined the best sites for the state of Nevada. We have weighting of 15, 21, 10, 26, 5, and 13%, and the categories of connectivity, nodes, commercial density, exiting fuel station density, exiting alternative fuel station priorities, disadvantaged communities, and trip end percentages. We have descriptions of what those mean, and then we also have as the source layer where we were able to get that information. As you can see in the source layer, we used many different sources to come up with the best program and the best weighting for our state. For year 1 and 2, this is the state of Nevada. You can see on the map on the right that we have proposed stations where the blue stars are. They follow along the US 50, US 95, and US 93. Those are the year 2 stations that we're proposing. The orange circles are the stations that we proposed for year 1, which cover the I-15 and the I-80. I-11, I-215, and I-515 already met the requirements for the NEVI stations of 50 miles apart, the 4 ports and the 600 kilowatts. And then the white dots the yellow dots are the existing stations, and it tells the story of how we determined where we needed to put stations. We have 2 new stations approved with the transportation electrification programs, one in Carson City and one in Primm. Since we have developed the year 1 plan, private entities have put in infrastructure in Carson City, so we will no longer be looking in Carson City to be adding more infrastructure. We'll continue to keep those funds and put them in other locations throughout the state to build a better network. We approved upgrades for 3 existing stations in our rural areas that will allow us to be considered fully built out status on our interstates. Those include one in Moapa, one in Wells, and one in Carlin. So there's one along the I-15 and 2 along the I-80. On the next slide, we'll discuss what our plan is for year 3. We are going to collaborate with our key stakeholders and coordinate with EV implementation in Nevada, including the rural counties. We intend to make the NEVI funds available to private partners and OEMs through grant opportunities. We will design and construct charging stations using the NEVI funds, and we will continue to build on the implementation strategies and processes of industry outreach, data collection and reporting, Justice 40 tracking, and funding reporting. We will reevaluate existing stations and submit the annual plan in August, as that's the date that they tend to tell us it's due. We haven't been given a due date yet, but with it being due in August the last 2 years, we're assuming that the year 3 plan will also be due during that time. Next page. The main reason that we're reaching out to you today is we'd love for you to get involved. We have a connection with the DOT.NV.gov mobility alternative fueling infrastructure plan that you can go as a participant and look at mapping locations to determine best areas for us to provide stations. You can also sign up for the NDOT NEVI program partnering directory. This is a list compiled of partners and prospective applicants hosting communities and other relevant stakeholders who express their desire to install, own, operate, and maintain electric vehicles in their respective communities. It'll also give you an idea of upcoming events like this meeting that we're having now, and it will give you the opportunity and the information to be able to follow us at NevadaDOT on Twitter for the updates. And on the next slide, we've left this time open specifically to be able to talk to our communities to see if they have any questions, comments, or concerns that they would like to talk to us about. If you would like to raise your hand, I can call on you, or there's also the opportunity to write and chat, and we can read those out loud and address any of your issues there as well. Lois, I see your hand is up. How can I help you?
It's Louis.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry.
So Louis Cariello from Lyon County. I did notice in the year 1 and 2, as well as existing, some station locations that look like on Highway 50, maybe in Stagecoach and Silver Springs, maybe Mark Twain and Silver Springs, as well as one of those little yellow dots down, near the middle of the county. And I thought the yellow represented an existing EV station. So I was wondering if I could get some information on that. I just wasn't aware of it. And then also maybe just a little explanation from you of what the county's role might be in those proposed, the stars look like year 2 stations. So I'm just not aware of something I should. I'm the community development director, and I feel like I should have been doing something, and I'd like to just know miss some sort of submittal or coordination activity.
No problem, no problem. Yes, we would definitely like to have you involved. You can shoot an email to me at kworley. It's going to be at the end of this, at the end of on the last slide, but kworley, it's spelled WORLEY at dot.nv.gov. And I definitely can get you added onto that list. You can also go to the Get Involved page on our website and we'll get you added. We currently are looking at attending the county meetings. I'm sorry, somebody was talking. We're currently looking at attending the county meetings coming up the first quarter here that NDOT puts together so that we can share more information with you. But we will be working directly with counties, with their mayors, with their teams. So any information we can get from you or for you, we will definitely do that. The information on current stations, we pull that from a national website that gives us the information on what is up and running. And then the stars are proposed stations. It's areas where we know that there's infrastructure in that area to be able to provide charging for people. We're not just putting them on an empty corner somewhere. We want people that are charging their cars to have the availability to access food or restrooms or other places of interest like shopping or stuff like that. So that's where we've determined that those would be good locations to place infrastructure. Does that answer your question?
I'm not sure I had that direct question. I'll look out for future correspondence. I mean, you led me right to something Lyon County is endeavoring to develop, which are some set of design standards or criteria for where NV stations should be located for the precise reasons you outlined. So I think I'll just look out for future correspondence and not take up everybody's time. Thank you.
Perfect. Well, and the best part is that we can definitely partner with you and help with funding to be able to get the infrastructure up and going. And Stoller, I see that your hand is raised.
Hi, thanks. First name's Stellar. Thanks for having me. I kind of signed up just to learn more, but in looking at partnering and things like that, I might have missed it because I was a few minutes late. But what do you need from like individuals or community members for this type of process? Is there anything specific we can do to help, or is this more partnership and collaboration with like businesses?
So sure. Can you please forward to the Get Involved page of the presentation? Thank you. So if you go to this website, and it's also in the chat, you can sign up for future emails. You can access a mapping program where you can actually go on and determine where you feel best a charging station would fit for your community that you live in. You can check out our updates on Twitter. There's a lot of information on that page that would be able to help you. And by signing up and becoming a program partner, you'll get more information from us as it evolves.
Okay, so still consider being a partner if we're just a community person.
Absolutely.
Person. Okay,
absolutely.
gotcha.
Yep, we want to hear from you.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Any other questions or comments? I apologize, my computer is thinking. So if there's a chat, I'm waiting to get to it, and I don't see any chats. Oh, go ahead.
Candy, it looks like Kristen has a question.
Okay, Kristen? Kristen Drummond? Do you have
Hi.
a question for me? Oh,
Is
hey,
okay, you can't hear me?
I can.
Okay, perfect. Hi. Yes, with obviously this is giving an update about what you're doing with the money and whatnot. And have you received any of that $38 million yet? If so, how much have you been able to spend and how much is left? And then a second part to the question with that, with those blue stars, are you able to change those locations based off the feedback you receive from the public?
So I'll start with the funding because we have approved plans. We've received roughly $18 million. We have received the money. We have not spent any of the money to date, but we will begin that process here fairly quickly at the beginning of the 2024 year. The blue stars absolutely can change. Those are just I'm not going to say examples. They're locations that we have determined that there needs to be charging stations, but they are not actual places of business where we want to put them, if that makes sense. So while we might have a star in Tonopah, we know that we need infrastructure in Tonopah to meet that 50-mile requirement, but we have not determined where that needs to be. As far as moving the stars north or south, east or west, it would depend on the distance and us being compliant with the every 50 miles and the other requirements that we have to have the charging stations be considered NEVI compliant.
Thank you. And since you said you received $18 million so far, where did NDOT get the initial funding to set up these first set of stations that we see on the map? And how much money has been spent already? And was that a grant or taxpayer money?
So we have been using planning funds for the first 2 years of this plan. Those are funds that already are allocated to the planning department. And they come, it is federal funding that comes down to NDOT.
Candy, maybe to supplement, a lot of the existing stations were privately funded.
Thank you.
And how many are publicly funded up until this point?
0.
Okay, so we have 0 publicly funded stations in Nevada, and then the goal is to create the publicly funded stations with
Correct.
this money? Okay.
Correct.
And do you have a number in mind? I know you're saying like every 50 miles along the interstate and highways, but is there a goal?
Well, the goal would be to have our interstates and US highways built out, considered fully built out, which would mean that we have 4 stations with 600 kilowatts every 50 miles. That is our goal. However, we will receive $38 million in total for this project, and it will depend on the cost of the energy, how to get the energy there, and the actual infrastructure at each location until we run out of the money. We do have, as our plans are approved, we receive the funding, and the funding does not have an end date. So we will be able to spend every cent that we get on the infrastructure and building this plan.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All questions are good questions. Here's another one.
It looks like we have a question from Deb.
Hi, I apologize if you answered this already or if I didn't see this information, but you're talking about the goal for having the state fully built out. Is there a deadline year that you have that, like at what point are you expecting or planning or looking to for that to be the case?
So the NEVI plan is a 5-year plan. We have every year we write what our actual plan is for that year. The first 2 years were strictly a planning event on determining what those every 50 miles are, working with the energy providers to determine what the cost of energy to locations would be. So we have a rough amount to plan for when we put RFPs out and start actually putting infrastructure in the ground. Then the third and fourth year, we will focus not only on infrastructure in the ground, but all the other requirements from the NEVI plan, which is workforce development and Justice 40 and community outreach, like this meeting here. We will focus more on that aspect while we're putting infrastructure in the ground. So we'll have 5 years to do plans. We're on year 3. And then from there, from the time infrastructure goes into the ground, we have reporting requirements to the FHWA for 5 years. So as soon as we get infrastructure in the ground, from that point forward, it will be a 5-year plan. It'll be a 5-year commitment for us to be giving them the reporting.
Okay, I guess more specifically for like the proposed stations that you've already got, like the stars and stuff on that map, when do you expect for like those to start being built? Just as somebody who drives an electric vehicle between northern Nevada and southern Nevada, I sometimes I'm not always sure if I'm going to make it to like Vegas or not.
I hear you loud and clear. We will be putting an RFP out for bid on certain locations. The US 95 will be a focus for us because we know that there are some gaps. We'll be doing that, I would say, mid-year this year, and then it takes a few months for the infrastructure to actually start being put in place. We're learning from other states that are just a step ahead of us, that it's taking quite a bit of time to actually get the infrastructure in the ground. There's a lot that we have to do to be able to get it in the ground. Kristen, did you have another question, or was your hand just still up? And her hand is down. Okay.
So there's a couple of questions in the chat. The first one says, how do we access the RFPs? And we have put a link in the chat to sign up for our partner directory. So if you click on that link and enter your information, you will be in NDOT's database to receive that information. And then the second question is this just for infrastructure?
And is this just for infrastructure? Are you talking about the NEVI funds? If so, the majority of it is for infrastructure, but yes, the money will be spent on other things as well. Like I said, it will be spent on outreach and education to the general public. It will be spent on more planning for the future of the NEVI plan. And it will be spent on verifying that we're meeting the requirements from the federal government to continue accessing the money.
Candy, another question from the chat. When you say public funding, do you mean that the state of Nevada taxpayers will fund electric fuel for citizens' personal vehicles?
No. Currently, our stance is that the infrastructure will be placed in areas where there will be a fee to charge your vehicle. So we will not be paying for the energy itself, just for the infrastructure to put the charging station in. These are some really good questions. People have a lot of concerns.
I don't see anything else in the chat right now.
All righty. I'm just going to hang out here for another 30 seconds or so. Please feel free to speak up.
Candy, looks like Kristen has another question.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. Kristen, did you have another question?
Sorry, my microphone was muted.
That's okay.
Here we go. Recently, Governor Joe Lombardo joined with other Republican governors calling on the White House to pull back on a proposed mandate for electric vehicle production. Is there right now a tension between the governor's office and NDOT when it comes to building out this infrastructure?
No, not at all. Actually, we are trying to figure out as a group, the chicken and the egg theory, what comes first. The funding that we're receiving from the federal government is strictly for infrastructure for charging. So what he is asking of the federal government is to slow down the requirement of we all need to own EVs. If you read the letter, it states that they are specifically talking about vehicle production, not about charging infrastructure. So that there's no hard feelings, and we still feel that he is supporting the initiative of the charging infrastructure.
And Candy, one follow on to that is there was recognition that that mandate depends on infrastructure being in place. So acknowledging, like Candy was saying, the chicken and the egg, but I think everyone is in support of more EV infrastructure needed. So like Candy said, that's on the manufacturing side, but one of the reasons is that we need this type of infrastructure.
Thank you.
Speaking of Candy, how do you feel Nevada's EV infrastructure is right now?
Oh my goodness. Our urban areas, we have a lot of infrastructure, not enough that we don't need more. Of course, we'll need more as there's more EVs on the road. But I really think that we are working very hard to have our rural areas more accessible. Like the person that spoke earlier, I'm sorry, I forgot your name, but she travels from north to south, and the infrastructure is either broken or not available in the areas where they need it. Not all the time, but it does happen. The maintenance needs to be done. And we're just working really hard to improve that so that people that do own the EVs can easily travel through our state. And then the visitors into our state have areas to charge as well. So the urban areas, of course, definitely have more charging availability than the rural areas, and that will continue as private industry is continuing to build in those areas because they can make money off it. But the rest of the state, we're working hard to just, keep it going, and I feel that we're doing a good job, and we have a good plan to be consistent with the other states that surround us.
Thank you.
Candy, it looks like we have another one in the chat. So the first question is, may we access the presentation on your website? Yes, so the presentation and a recording, so the PowerPoint and a recording of this webinar will be available on the website probably in the next day. Mm-hmm. And the second question is, when someone signs up to get involved, do you send emails to notify of upcoming events, or is it only via Twitter?
We will be sending emails of upcoming events as they occur.
Paul, did you have a question? You might be on mute.
Yeah, your mic is turned off.
Nope, I'm good. Sorry, I got here a little late.
Oh, that's fine.
That's okay.
There's another Paul also. I was just wondering when they're going to start all this, and are they going to have Chatamo also for the across the stations?
So we will be implementing all of the NEVI standards on all of the stations. So that CCS is what is required from us. They have recently voted that NAC can also be implemented, but we have to have the 4 CCS charging available.
How about Chatamo?
Chatamo was not one of the plug sources that was put into the plan. So we're just following the federal guidelines.
When is it going to start?
I'm not sure what you mean by that question, start. When are we going to start putting in infrastructure?
Yes.
I'm hoping by the end of the year, we'll actually see in the ground infrastructure. It takes some time.
Are there going to be fast chargers or just regular?
They will all be fast chargers. That it's one of the requirements. The requirements are that we have to have 4 ports with CCS connectors, and it's 150 kilowatts for each port. Thank you.
Are they going into, are they going south also, like the Phoenix?
Statewide on the interstates and US highways.
Okay.
And other states have similar programs, so they will be building out their alternative fuel corridors as well, similar to what Candy's describing that.
Any other questions? Okay, if you can go to the last slide. This is my information. Please feel free to reach out to me at any time. And I'm just very thankful that you joined in and that you want to be involved with the NEVI plan and see what Nevada is doing. We're happy to answer any other questions you may have. And we thank you for your time. And I'm happy to give you guys each a little bit of time back for your day. Thank you for attending.